Brett McMurphy, Action Network HQ, joins us. A great friend of the family of 365 Sports, Craig Smoke, David Smoke. Here we are. Brett, thank you very much. I know it's been a few days, but your nuggets in breaking down the trends of the past and what happens with teams ranked wherever they're ranked in the AP is just phenomenal. Is that something you update each year and then you kind of add to it as the top 25 is released?
Yeah, some of that is. I mean, when you've been doing it as long as I do, as long as I jot stuff down and you just go back and revisit it, sometimes some stuff is relevant one year, next year it's not. And look, just because it's happened in the past doesn't mean it's going to happen again. But there's some things I think you can, look at and, learn from and maybe not make that mistake if you're making predictions or actually, trying to make a little money on the side. But, like something simple, like the preseason number one AP ranked team has not won the national title in 18 or 19 of the past 20 or 21 years. And Georgia didn't do it last year. They're number one again. Can they do it? Absolutely. History says they're not going to do it. So it's a lot of things like that, that kind of stick out to me. Another one that seems to come in every year is, everyone gets all, jacked up over the AP preseason top 25 poll. I understand why. But you look at that top 10, and history says at least one of those teams in the top 10 are going to finish out of the top 25. That's happened 19 of the last 20 years. So it's fun to kind of put that stuff out, and then people kind of have their take on who that team's going to be or who is currently unranked that will climb into the top 25. That's happened 18 of the last 19 years.
Brett, you put out your playoff projections a couple of days ago. Texas State, I think, was the one that's probably the most unique choice that is just different from, kind of seeing various others that are out there. What kind of went into just your thoughts on the Bobcats in particular with G.J. Kinney, but also what's that like, this exercise of putting together a 12-team playoff bracket for the first time? I know you've done it other times probably this offseason, but just in general ahead of a season.
You guys agreed with every single pick, right?
Every single one of them.
I was amazed. I thought that was my picks, and you just copied my paper. Yeah.
Well, you kept texting me your picks. I figured I'd go ahead and use them. Look, I could have sat there and took my preseason top 25 poll and put the top 11 teams in and thrown a group 5 team in there and said, here you go. Here is the obvious way to do it. But you know what? Again, talking about history, you look at the past years, again, if we would have had a playoff, we didn't have a playoff, that there's a number of times that unranked teams would have been in the playoffs and unranked teams to start the year. Teams that were not picked to win their conference would have been in the playoffs. And so I kind of tried to, take that and kind of mix it in with some that I think are, certified blocks to get in the playoff, the usual suspects, Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon. I think Alabama's in a good position. I actually didn't have Texas in my playoff. I think there's a big jump going from the Big 12 to the SEC. Obviously, they lose their starting running back. They've lost a backup running back. I think it's just the accumulation of all that stuff. But no, Texas State was, a sleeper. I know most people have Boise State. It's not that I don't like Boise State. I don't like their schedule. They only have 7 conference games. They have 5 non-conference games, including Oregon State, Washington State, Oregon. Now, the good news is you win those games, you're a lock to get in. Mm-hmm. You lose some of those games, and now it's okay. Now you start playing the game of, well, how many losses are too many losses? I just like what, Texas State's been doing. Their offense is off the charts. Don't want to bring up bad memories, but you remember last year's season opener. And, they basically have Arizona State, who I think is a Big 12 team that they can win. Somehow they've got that game at home. UTSA will be a tough matchup, but I think 11-1 conference championship Texas State will be in contention to get into the playoff as a Group 5 team. Probably the biggest challenge for them, if again you got to win the conference, is if Boise State, gets through their schedule with 10 wins. That'll be hard to knock them out. Or somebody, rolling out 10 wins from the American, Memphis, the most likely candidate. But yeah, I like their chances. I really do. And look, I don't know about you guys, but I know it's 12 and we've only had 4 before, but I want to see some new blood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Probably majority of people never heard of Texas State. No offense to Texas State. We love the Bobcats, but kind of like the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, you get that breath of fresh air with what are considered the Cinderella, even though if they have a pretty good run, there's certain Cinderellas that have a little bit of meat to their bones. When you were just mentioning Texas State, and yes, we saw that game, and I've known G.J. Kiddey since he was a high school quarterback in Canton, Texas. It's just the fact you can bring them up. And it's not like a miracle type year that they have to get in, at least for the next couple of years. That's what, to me, makes this so exciting.
Yeah, I mean, what's good, it'll, not that you guys need stuff to talk about because you guys are locked in and do a great job, but I mean, think of all the content you're going to have when we get into the end of October, the 1st of November, and there literally will be 30, maybe 40 teams with legitimate shots to get into the playoff. And if we thought the TV ratings were impressive in past years, I think this year will be a record. Because now you're more than ever before, you're going to have Texas State fans tuning in to some net game on Tuesday night, rooting that the favorite in that league loses to drop them down the pecking order. Or you're going to have somebody tuning in to see what's going on in the Memphis USF game, that has no affiliation with that schools because you're hoping those guys lose to help your profile or your resume. So that's going to be fascinating. And yeah, we'll have, it'll be intense. It's college football, 1. And 2, it's no longer Major League Baseball. It's no longer after the first week of the season, you've been eliminated and there's 160 games to go and you can't make the playoffs. This is different. You can lose a couple times. You still got a real shot to get in. And I think that'll be huge. And I think, fans will gravitate to that. And I think the TV ratings will increase because of that also.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see how all this starts to unfold beginning, I guess technically this weekend, but especially next week. I saw you made the comment because we talked about this story earlier, the bettor who put $10,000 on Colorado to win the Big 12, and you had a funny comment about that. I guess if you got $10,000 to just burn and you're not going to be affected by it, that's not a bad bet to make because of what you can make off of it. But what do you think of just Colorado in general this year, Brett, and what are your expectations for what you think we'll see with Dion in year number 2 and the changes they've made?
Well, I do have one regret about that tweet. So okay. I wasn't going to delete it, but the bettor bets $10,000. He gets 250,000.
Yep.
So I said would win 250,000, and then I said will win $0.
Right.
It's a brain cramp. I should have said, instead of will win $0, I should have said will lose $10,000.
Yeah, there you go.
I want to apologize to the entire Twitter community for that faux pas. And by the way, you know what this is called, right? This is called money laundering. All right, money laundering 2024. Look, Colorado gets a lot of pub. You guys, I saw you guys in Vegas. I don't think they have the quality depth yet. Obviously Sanders at quarterback's a stud. Travis Hunter, he was on our Action Network All-America team at corner. They have a couple of, incredible skill players. If they can't block anybody, it doesn't matter. And we saw that last year. Shadir Sanders got beaten up game after game after game. I think the schedule's tough. I think coming into the Big 12, you guys talk to these coaches like I do privately. If you ask them what team do you want to beat more than anyone else, I'd say the majority of them would say Colorado. And that's for whatever reason. I don't know why, but that's in large part because of Deion Sanders. And so I think you're getting everybody's A game. You're in a new conference. That's going to be difficult. I don't see them getting to just 6 wins, much less winning a conference championship. I think they fall just short of getting to a bowl game.
Brad, I saw your response to Circus Sports. They put out the Heisman Trophy, at least the odds, and that 5 of the 8 listed are transfers. And yet then I saw your note that 5 of the last 7 were transfer quarterbacks. That seemed like that trend probably goes to 6 of the last 8 based on what I see and what you put.
Yeah, I really don't have a good read on who's going to win the Heisman. I never have, and I've kind of just basically determined when people ask who I think is going to win the Heisman, I tell them I honestly have no clue. The thing, and I'm a Heisman voter, and this is not me personally, but just from the Heisman voting group, it appears that there's a few things that are very important. 1, you better be a quarterback. 2, you better be on a team that's highly ranked that has a chance to get to the playoff. 3, it certainly helps to play on conference championship weekend. And 4, you need a good storyline, or you need a good, I know the cliche Heisman moment. You need a good, you need to make a good, feel-good story for everybody. I actually think, Dylan Gabriel is the favorite right now. I think it's a disadvantage to be the favorite. I really do, because I think everybody, instead of praising these guys, will nitpick what they do wrong. And instead of talking about the 4 touchdowns, they're going to criticize the 1 interception. You have to go all the way back to 2014 for the last preseason favorite to win the Heisman. Ironically, that was Marcus Mariota of Oregon. Does another Oregon quarterback go wire to wire? We'll have to see. But I just think now with social media and everything, when you are the favorite, you guys know this, all everyone wants to do is knock you down, knock you off your pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at the last few guys that have – Joe Burrow came out of nowhere to win this thing. Daniels came out of nowhere. Obviously, he doesn't fit the profile of being on a playoff team or whatever. And the only way to beat that is to put up just incredible numbers that you can overcome this stuff. And a lot of people, it seems to me a lot has changed in that. I think 5-10 years ago, you get into the stats. Well, this guy's got 3,000 yards passing, 4,000 yards passing, 1,500 yards rushing, whatever it is. Now these stats are insane. They're crazy. And no one knows what was Daniel's stats last year. I have no clue. But he won. Because what he did, what he meant to LSU. So, yeah, sorry, you guys are looking for a Heisman pick. I don't got one. I just would not take any of the top 5 or 6 favorites. Find somebody further down that you think has a shot to get to the playoff, and you'll have as good a chance as, picking a name out of a hat.
I am a Heisman voter, and I have no idea. And I when I think I know, then all of a sudden,
well, you shouldn't, because they haven't played any games yet, so you shouldn't have an idea of who's going to win. Yeah,
you meant no, exactly, and I really don't, because it could be whoever's like 23rd right now. The top 18 bet picks are all quarterbacks, and then Travis Hunter, who's such a unique player, is 19, and then everything else for the next 8 or 10 picks are also quarterbacks. Brett, I just saw where you and I know the SEC released their tie-breaking rules. And at the very bottom of the tie-breaking rules, unless I misread that, it's a random draw out of someone's, hat.
Yeah.
It's
a random draw. I don't know if it's necessarily a hat. It could be, it could be ping pong balls or something. But, yeah. Look, I don't think they're going to get to that. It's funny, though, because, the Big 12's got to do it, too. It's either draw names out of a hat or flip a coin, unless they want to go rock, paper, scissors. I'm rooting for that, but the SEC has a very complicated, and if any of your listeners can figure it out, please email me, because I read it and I don't understand it. But there is a winning margin metric in there that I won't even try to explain. It's not simply a winning margin. It's based on your average points allowed, scored and allowed, and then the number of points you score, and then based on if you would score 100% of those points. I can't understand it. I went to Oklahoma State, as you guys know. I can't understand it. So I don't think they're going to get past that metric to get to the random drawing the names out of a hat. But I wish they would, because it reminds me of when I worked in Odessa, Texas, covering high schools, where you would have those tiebreakers, and the coaches would drive to the convenience store halfway between, and the local TV reporters there filming it, and they throw quarters against the wall, or 3 teams, 2 heads and 1 tails. Those are the good old days. But yeah, look, the Big Ten's got to do the same thing. Everybody's going to come up with it, and yeah, it's going to be fascinating to look at the final tiebreaker for all these conferences, because that's got what it's got to be. Draw names out of a hat or flip coins.
After last year, do we know that the Big 12 has, figured out what they have as far as tie-breaking procedures? I feel like maybe that kind of got lost in just all the other offseason talk, but that was a big talking point at the end of last year, obviously. Has that been sorted out? Do you even know?
I don't think it has, and I don't know if they're going to change it, or if I'm sure they're going to tweak it, because you're adding 4 teams, and not everybody. I mean, everyone didn't play everybody when you had, 4 teams. So certainly everyone's not going to play everybody when you have 16. So yeah, I'm sure they'll tweak it a little bit. Me personally, whatever benefits Oklahoma State, I'm all for it.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
Speaking of which, by the way, what were your thoughts about the barcode in the back of the helmet?
So the immediate Twitter reaction is, "Oh, how are you going to scan that from up in the stand?" Okay, it's going to be on the Jumbotron. 2, it's going to be on every, hundreds of spots around the stadium. It'll be on websites. It'll be all over the place. Look, we're talking about it. That's half the battle in college football, is to be relevant, to be talked about, and Colorado to deliver. So that's part of I think Oklahoma State accomplished that. I mean, look, we're beyond the point of amateurism and all that stuff. So if you can generate more money, that's great. I did see a couple of funny responses. Like, people were like, they are not fans of Oklahoma State, and they remarked that if they're at the game and like a cornerback gives up a TD to their team, that they may shoot the cornerback that got burned a few bucks for giving up the winning score. So I mean, look, it's great, and I think you'll see other people do this. UCF put it on their jerseys for their spring game a couple of years ago, which obviously is a lot bigger. Hey, this is the reality we're in. There's one thing that every college athletic department is doing as we speak, and that is trying to figure out how to generate more money. So I see this, as another step along the path.
And Brett, as always, thank you for being a part of the show. Always love the segment. Watch your feed and all the stuff you write for Action Network, Action Network HQ. Thanks for your time, buddy. Appreciate it.
All right. Stop texting me all your playoff picks, okay?
I will. He is one of the ultimate, and the ultimate insider when it comes to college football. Action Network HQ. Brett _McMurphy on Twitter.